In Titus 2, older women are commanded to teach what is good so they can help younger women love their husbands and children. On today's show, you'll hear from older women who will share timeless, relevant biblical wisdom and personal, profound life experiences to help answer your questions and teach what God says is good so you can be the wife and mother you were created to be. Welcome to another episode of Older Women Likewise.
Unknown author wrote, "When we sing together, our hearts become one and our praises reach the heavens." That joyous collective activity is the topic of our final episode of a series of programs titled Fine-Tuning Our Singing. I'm Colleen O'Steen. Joining me in the discussion are Julie Estes, a former band director with a bachelor's degree in music education and a master's in flute performance, and Stephanie Massey, a former voice and piano teacher with a bachelor's degree in music and vocal performance and a minor in music theory and vocal pedagogy. Thanks for joining us. I think we have an idea of what heaven will sound like when we hear the saints singing praises to God. Revelation 5:11 through 12 reads, "Then I looked and I heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of many angels, numbering myriads and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, 'Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing.'" Occasionally, I've heard Christians say they don't have a good singing voice or they feel like their voice is not strong. But it's almost like magic. When many voices blend together, the effect is stunning. As we consider the basic aspects of congregational singing, let me ask, what are some foundational points we need to understand about congregational singing? Julie, I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, as you've mentioned, it's about glorifying God. What can we do as a group together to glorify God? So that's our main number one goal. But the first thing that comes to my mind before we ever sing, usually the song leader will blow a pitch and sing a pitch for us. And what does that mean for me? I think there's some folks, a lot of folks probably, that are not sure what that means for them. And if we can learn things like that, just little bits and pieces along the way, we can really improve our overall group singing.
What about anything like volume, or are we going to get to that later, or tempo?
Oh, tempo for sure. One thing is some songs get to going too fast or too slow, and then all of a sudden you find that you're not thinking about the words and praising God. You're thinking about, this is dragging, or this is going so fast all I can think about are the words that I've got to get squeezed in here. So tempo is a huge thing that can impact our ability to worship properly. But one thing, and knowing when they're beating a pattern, knowing what that means, where the measures are the lines that you see, those notes, and then there are these lines on the bars, and those are each measure. And at the very first note after each one of those measure lines, that's your downbeat. So that's when the person leading singing is going to go down. And if they're not, for some reason, always follow their mouth.
Good point. That's what I do.
Yeah. And so both of those, the things, the downbeat and finding what we call do, finding what the home base is for that song, really makes a difference. So when that song leader gets up there and blows the pitch, they're usually going to say do, so, or do, and they'll go up to the mi, do, mi. And you look at the very beginning of the song. And if you're using hymns for worship, there's actually a foreword at the beginning of the book that tells you how to find all those things. And it tells you, let's see, I've got one with me. So it tells you how the songs are arranged. If you want to find a song about this topic or about that topic, it tells you the format that the song is printed in, the pitch and direction guide. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. It tells you what meter it's in, what note they're going to blow, or if you're the one leading, what, a group of ladies maybe, then what note you're going to blow for that pitch. All of that stuff is on each page. And so they really made it easy for you to find those. And if you're in the congregation and you're the one singing, still look at that. That's not just for the song leader. You'll see, does it start on a do? A do is the triangle. So we have shape note singing, solfege. That triangle comes around, that's usually home base. And so if you can find the do in a major song, which most of our songs are in major keys, if you can find that do, you can find your place even if you get lost. You just have to listen for that home base. And most people can find that even if they don't know what that means. They can find what the main pitch is, and it usually will start and end on a do very often. Somebody amongst the four parts will be singing that. And then, like Stephanie said, you're looking for that downbeat so that you can get back on track if it's dragging or getting ahead. A lot of that, just those few things that all happen at the very beginning of the song set the tone and make it much easier for everyone to work together.
Okay. What are some best practices to keep in mind when singing with a congregation? Stephanie, you had some ideas about the kinds of songs or the type of song that is best for a congregation to sing. Some ideas about that, like a comfortable range, maybe.
She might be frozen.
Okay. Well, Julie, what about, you can speak to this.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that Stephanie has said in the past couple of episodes that we've had is about not sticking out. And I think that that's a very good comment that she's made and that I would agree with. If you're the one loud voice in the group, then you're not trying to blend, you're not trying to be a part of this one machine that's all working together to praise God. We're thinking about the words, we're thinking about the fact that we're doing this all together to praise God. And if you're sticking out, then you might be distracting someone else, or maybe your mind has veered off into how do I sound? And so that's really gonna help you stay together.
And even if you are really good, I don't think that helps to stick out, even if you're a great singer.
Right. Yeah. It's often just distracting to other people. And if they're not singing your part, you're really not helping them all that way.
So, I like your word machine. We're all it's all a lot of moving parts, and we're trying to stay together and support each other, and of course glorify God. So what about like tempo and range? When people are choosing songs, what about some of those things, like the vocal range of a song? Are there some songs that maybe we should leave those to a small group at home singing, or what do you think
there
about
probably
that?
are, but the one thing that you brought to my mind actually when you said that was when a song leader pitches a song. I'll give you an example. Someone that I once knew said he led a song, and I said, I just really had a hard time singing those low notes, harder than usual. And he said, oh, well, I always pitch the songs low. My wife told me that she has a hard time. She likes singing this part, and it's hard for her to sing that high. So I just pitch everything low. Well, that's causing everyone else in the congregation to struggle to sing. So maybe his wife is happy, but it just makes it really hard on everyone else. So I would say that'd be a big point when you're picking out your song. Pick something that you can actually sing that range. Pick something that you know your congregation is able to sing. And if we've tried it before and we just don't have the chops for that, maybe that's not the best song for our congregation. Maybe that is something, like you say, for a special singing night, or when you know that you've got good, strong singers there. Yeah,
Mhm.
Song choice is very big in being able to effectively worship God.
Let's return to your earlier point. I was going to talk about this later, but this is a good place to bring it up. If you were in band or chorus, you're taught that, like, you don't fiddle around with the literature. You play it just like it's written, because somebody who knows a lot more than Colleen about writing a song and developing the song and bringing it to market and, publishing it, they took care of all that. So somebody pitching it lower or doing something different, or doing stuff with the songs, I would say most of the time just don't, because especially for the old ones, they've been around so long that they've been, the troubleshooting is done on those. They're pretty good.
Mhm.
And to just do something just because you feel like it, there has to be respect for what's been published.
Yeah, I do honestly believe that you could go a half step off and be just fine if you're the leader and you just struggle on that one high note or something like that, and you want to take it down a half step. I think most people would never even notice that. I think that's undetectable. But if you go more than that, then you start affecting the original intent, which, like you say, they studied that when they did it. They've probably sung that song before it was published in lots of settings, yes, with lots of people to see how that went, and they've rewritten it to make sure it is doable.
And some of these are centuries old. So I'm going to say that we've got it pretty good.
Yeah,
it's in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
What about tempo and beat patterns? Stephanie, are you back with us?
I am.
You good to go? Okay, we haven't gone much further since you were off. What about, so we're still on best practices. We talked about the pitching the song and the comfortable vocal range. We've discussed that. And then what I want to talk about, a clear tempo and beat pattern. Do you think you can address that, Stephanie?
Sure. So, there's several different beat patterns. One is like a 4/4, which is your basic, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. And that means there's 4 beats in each measure. And when that's your most common one, and so your down beat's going to be down, and then in for beat 2, out for beat 3, and up for beat 4. And then you come across that bar line and you come back down for beat 1. Then you have a 3/4 tempo, which is down for beat 1, out for beat 2, and up for beat 3. And then 2/4 or 6/8 typically beat just out, up. So 1, 2, 1, 2.
Would you recommend just a simple hand movement? Sometimes
so
there are.
You don't have to remember all that. You can go 1, 1, 1, 1. That is fine.
Particularly if you get off beat, because it's easy even for a professional to get off beat. And you try to do something, and then when you come back, you're like, oh, 1, 1, 1. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed.
Find your spot.
I noticed one of Julie's sons. He's real young, and it might have been the first time he ever led a song, and I could tell Julie had taught him, because it was very simple. Very simple. That's all I need. I don't need a lot of stuff.
Right.
So,
and don't be intimidated by it. If you're leading a song of a class of women or something, and you're leading them in a song, don't be intimidated by having to know if it's what the time signature is or anything. Just start beating. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, centuries ago, when they did a lot of the solfege singing, they would actually sing the whole first verse in solfege, then launch into the words. That was very
What do you say in solfege?
So the shape notes, do, re, mi.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. They would sing it by the shapes, then jump in. We had an event for where I'm from, the college I'm from, every year that was Mountain Heritage. And that was one of the things they did. They pulled out the old solfege books, and you would sing through the whole thing in solfege, and then you would jump into the actual words. But the point of why I say that is they didn't do the same conducting that we do. It was down, up, and your whole arm. You just put your whole arm into it. You just kept a beat. Just keep a beat.
That's all we need. That's really all we need.
That is fine. We don't have to be fancy. It is perfectly fine.
With both of your experience, do you think there are some people, Stephanie has talked about, like, there may be people who they do not have good pitch. They're sharp or flat, and maybe they don't know it, but you were talking about how you could teach someone to have good pitch and be right on, and you've got the evidence to show that. What about beat? Are there some people that they just don't have the beat and they'll never have it, or can you learn to have the beat? Either of you.
I think you can learn it. I think when you start young, when your children are young, I like to turn it into a game, and you can do it with any song, but have them clap or tap to the beat when they're young, and it just becomes ingrained in them as to what the beat is.
But what if you're an adult and you still don't? You don't have. Do you think that someone can learn that? Have you ever had anyone?
I do think you can learn it. I think it, just like with singing, I think it just is going to take work at home, thinking about where that beat is. And a lot of times with singing and rhythm and things like that, you need a partner to help, someone that does understand. It's going to be hard to improve if you don't know that you're not on beat. So if you can find a trusted friend that will come and say, hey, listen, I want to get better at this. Can you help me? And I guarantee you they would.
Yeah. So 2 examples on that. When I was young and I wanted to be I ended up being the drum major. I think Stephanie was. I think you were too, weren't you, Colleen? Were you
really?
We were. I think we were all. But when I was trying to learn that before I auditioned, I flipped the radio on and conducted with the radio, whatever song was on. And I just stood in front of a mirror and conducted with it to perfect my pattern and to make sure I was on beat, fast songs, slow songs, whatever. And that was just an easy way, without having someone there, that I could feel a beat. But when you talk about not being able to feel the beat, like Stephanie said, you're going to need help with that. So I've had students before. One in particular, she really, really struggled with that very much. So as she was playing, I would stand next to her and I would tap my foot on top of hers while she played, so she could feel that beat until it got ingrained. And eventually I wasn't having to do that anymore. Same girl in the very beginning, and we're talking high schooler. I'm not talking a child.
Yes.
Small child. I got a ball, and we stood there and we played music or recorded music and threw the ball back and forth and made sure we caught it on the beat. And some of that comes from I've taught elementary music before, and so I bring some of that in often, because what you do with small kids will also work with adults and older kids, but it really made a difference. She really made a turnaround in being able to feel and stay on the beat. You just have to internalize the pulse. You have to externally internalize the pulse for them until they start feeling it.
Okay. What about tempo? I would say that is one of the biggest challenges for the ensemble, big group of people. singing together with all kinds of different ideas about what the speed of the tempo, the speed of the song, and all different levels of ability with singing. Talk about a clear tempo from the beginning. Stephanie, you want to start with that?
Sure. So, like I was talking about, I had said previously that when people compose this music, they have a clear idea in mind of if they want it to be a fast song or a slow song, to evoke a specific emotion as you're singing it. And so, if it is intended to be a slow song, then we need to make sure we start the tempo as a slow song. If it is intended to be a fast song, we need to start the tempo as a faster song. If it starts to lag, it as the song leader, that's where you get that one beat thing going and keep them going. And I know we've all had some song leader in front of us before when it starts to lag and their arm motions get bigger. All of a sudden they're just trying to give us that beat. So
they go from one arm to using both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you add that second arm in there, you're showing the congregation, wait, here I am. Go with my tempo.
Julie, do you have anything to add about tempo and a clear tempo from the beginning?
Well, I would add for the song leader, when it starts dragging, to sing out more. And, that's something that we've said a couple of times as the congregation, well, let's not stick out. But if you're the song leader and we start having problems during the song, then that's your duty to get us back on. So like Stephanie said, you're going to make your pattern larger, or maybe you're going to add that second hand in conducting. You're going to raise your voice. When you go back for the second verse, start it back the way you wanted it. That's your opportunity, because you're back at the beginning of the notes again, and you can sing out, give that beat real good to get them back in. As the congregation, our job is to look at him while he's doing those things. He's trying. Help him. Stay with it. Watch his lips. We've said that several times. Watch his lips, because sometimes you'll look up and you'll see he's not on the same words as everybody else. And we got to catch up. We got to help him.
Mm-hmm. Somebody told me one time that he said, I don't know anything about singing, but my wife told me that you're just supposed to stay with the people around you. Just stay the same tempo as the people around you. And I was like, no.
If they're doing it well, then.
Oh, yeah. So the idea is, like, especially if you're in the back, a lot of times it can kind of start breaking down back there. And it may be just being, the song leader's not right in your face. And so, you need to be really looking, especially if you're in the back, because.
Well, and that's a tip in and of itself, Colleen. If you have a need to sit in the back, do it. If you don't have a need to be in the back, move up a little and get closer to the people, especially if you're in a larger building with less people. Mm-hmm. Then you want to sit closer together because of that exact thing.
Yeah, sometimes congregations, it's not just that they're thinking, oh, this song should be slower. It's just that it drags. It's the word drags, and it's just for whatever reason that's happening, and the song leader's trying to, either is not sure whether he should insist or if he should just go with, just let them do what they want. And you see that quandary for people. So when my husband was first learning to lead singing, he taught himself. He didn't have any musical training, but he taught himself. And when my girls were growing up, they were in band. And so we would when he would practice the songs he was going to be singing, like when he was going to be leading, we would deliberately drag. We would just get in there and we would just drag. And so to give him practice at like pushing that train ahead.
That's one of the hardest parts of song leading. It really is, when it starts to drag and you're trying to pull them with you. Well, of any type of music, when it starts to drag, what do? It can become a train wreck so easily.
Yes, and then that's distracting and it true. What about known songs? I think Julie kind of mentioned new ones as opposed to old ones. Do you think what do you think about that? Do known songs do anything for us? Are they a good idea?
Oh, I think known songs are a great idea. Known songs are what really get our mind focused on God, because we're not thinking about what note comes next and how does this rhythm go and what is this, I don't know the words that are coming up. When we have a new song, a lot of times it takes our attention off of what we're there to do as we're learning it, because it's if you've never heard it before, whether you like it or not, you're learning it as you're singing it. And so that's hard to keep focus when you have a new song a lot of the time.
And some new songs that come along are just wonderful and they deserve to be learned.
Yes.
And that's true. But I think deciding wisely when to do that is what's needed. And a lot of congregations will have a song practice period, maybe 30 minutes or an hour before worship starts. They'll go through. We used to do that, and or sometimes they'll say, let's reserve the newer songs for Sunday night and Wednesday night, maybe when we don't have visitors and things like that you sometimes have on Sunday mornings. I think that's wise to do that, to try to learn them at appropriate times rather than just throwing it out as the very first song.
Yes.
It sets the tone, and that is something else that I hadn't thought of till just now. Picking your first song for the worship really sets the tone. Often, if you see someone that picks a slow song as the first song, the whole service, all of the songs kind of drag a little. And if you give them a little pep from the very beginning, it kind of helps the other songs later.
Okay, good comments. I think I'll skip I had a question. I'm going to skip down to the question that talks about the collective activity of worship and some things to consider when regarding the other singers. Julie, you want to speak to that? I think we've talked about it a little, but you may still have a little more to say about this.
What to think about as we're
considering the other singers. We talk about the song leader and how to deal with him, and then him or her, and then the other. But as we're thinking about the other people around us singing.
Yeah, well, I think we mentioned in another episode of looking around and seeing the people around us and realizing that we are singing to them, with them, aimed toward God in our worship. And as we're doing that, we want to take care to support the people around us in what they're doing to sing without sticking out. I think that you can do that. I think that you can switch parts if you need to help someone around you, and just being aware of what's going on, being aware that the words that you're singing may be different than another voice that's singing at the same time. I think about the song Exalted. The men are singing totally different words from the women. And if we don't hear what they're singing, we've missed half of the point of the song.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah, I was going to say too, that as Julie had said about singing other parts, if there is a song that has, let's say, an alto lead section in it, and most people are singing the soprano part, take the alto lead and help support in that way as well.
I think this is a good place for me to ask this impromptu question about how, noticing. It's not always appropriate for me to sing out. Sometimes it's just your part is an under part, or it's a moving part underneath the main. And it could be that the altos have the main melody, and the sopranos are just going da 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 underneath. So, Julie, you want to speak to that? How that can get kind of goofed up?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what direction you're headed with it, with how it can get goofed up.
Well,
do you mean like if the altos just take off and do it their own way, away from the leader?
No, I'm talking about where everybody, all the accompanying moving parts underneath the main are so zealous that they overpower.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that there's much you can do about it in the moment, except sing out if you're one of the altos. But yeah, that does happen, because maybe they have that moving line and the altos are just holding a note. I actually find for myself that if I'm as an alto, I told y'all I'm not necessarily an alto in the last episode, but I sing alto. And I find that it's the opposite. If we get the lead, boy, we just go for it. and we're not hearing what everyone else is doing and pulling away from the song leader and maybe singing a little too slow because we're enjoying it so much. So in my experience, it tends to go the other way.
I don't think so. I mean, as a soprano, I'm used to being the loud melody, and I'll find and I'm like, oh wait, I'm supposed to be quiet on this part, and the altos have it, or the basses, or whoever who don't normally get it, the main melody. And I'm speaking to myself because I'm so excited, doing my little beats along underneath, but I'm overpowering the main part.
Well, that is something to talk about with it, just balancing and realizing, is my line the main part or not? And whether it be in band or in chorus or congregational singing, that one more important line should be the one that stands out. And that it could go either way. On one hand, it may mean that the people singing that line need to sing out. But if they can't, or if there's not enough of them because the number of people are imbalanced, it's on the other people to back off and realize, wait, there is a more important line going on here that's actually giving the message of this song.
Okay. Well, let's move on to something else. Sometimes people say they just don't know anything about music or singing, and they just don't appreciate it, or they're kind of lost. And I wonder if it's that they didn't really get a good musical education when they were babies or children. So, Stephanie, I'll start with you. What are some ways to start babies and children learning how to sing and keep the beat and, enjoy singing? What should we do?
Well, start them early. Sing with them often. Play music all the time. I used to have and when I had my music studio, I had a children's class for ages 2 up to kindergarten, and we did a lot of things. We did things with rhythms and sticks and fun songs, and any song that they like to sing. Make it fun, make it a game. Have them clap to it, have them tap to it. I had little sticks. They were just wooden dowel rods that I had gotten at Hobby Lobby, and they loved to beat those together. It was just such a fun thing. And so, make it a game, make it fun, and have them tap that beat, to anything they like to listen to or sing, and just get that kind of ingrained in them and get them to enjoy what they're singing and not be afraid to sing. And a lot of times that may be with whatever they're into at the time, but if they can start that when they're young, then it bleeds over into congregational singing.
I was at a concert one time, and it was all African music, and it was people from Africa had come, and they were putting on a performance of their traditional music. And after the concert, we were talking to one of the ladies, and we asked them, how do you do such complex rhythms? It was just amazing, the way they fit together, where each person was doing a different rhythm, and it was so just amazing how they stayed on beat and how perfectly they did it. And she said, it's just ingrained in us. She said, when we rock our babies, we tap on them, we pat their little bottoms. And she said, we start complex rhythms with infants just by patting them in those rhythms. And so she said, it's something that we've always known. And she would give me, my mama would, and she would tell me all about the things as she was growing up. But from the time that baby was born, they were already tapping those rhythms and singing those songs. So those traditional rhythms and all that complexity didn't seem so complex to them. It's something they always knew. So I think for us, just like I tapped on that girl's foot for her, we do that with our babies. When we're sitting in worship services and we've got our 2-year-old in our lap, we can be tapping their legs with the beat. If you know music, take their little arm and conduct with their little arm, have them do it. It keeps them entertained, on top of the fact that they're learning and they're becoming a part of what's going on. And they love that.
Yeah. I think that's key, making them a part of it rather than just looking around, looking down and just being completely out of what we're doing, outside of the group. Julie, I think you mentioned this earlier, but what about if you could elaborate a little more on where you sit in the auditorium? Is that important with kids?
It was to us. We sat as close to the front as we could with ours, and I think it made a big difference because they could see what was going on. They weren't distracted by all of the people in front of them, because especially for a kid, it's so easy for them to see other people, other kids playing with these toys, or people leaning over and moving, and they're so easily distracted. The further up they are, then the less they will be distracted. And I know we have to be careful about not becoming the distraction when we sit too close to the front. But it does help them to see that for kids. Now, for adults, same thing goes. All we are is big babies. So we're easily distracted. Everything for that really goes for anybody. And if you sit too far to the back, then there's a lot of things that you might not catch that are going on at the front, because it's blocked. You can't necessarily see the song leader. It always helps now that we've got the songs up on the overhead projector. That's big. I think a lot of congregations, most congregations do that these days. And that has made such a difference from years ago, when everybody had their head in their songbook and they couldn't even see over the top of the songbook. So that's huge. And if you are at a congregation where you don't have the overhead like that, that's okay. Bring that songbook down so that you can still see it, but you can see over it. And but the placement of where you're sitting, it plays into all of that, because you may not be able to hear as well. If you have trouble hearing the song leader give the pitch, or say the song number as they're walking to the front, your seating really makes a difference in that.
Yeah, and I think with kids too, they're more engaged when they're closer to the front. And like Julie was saying, they're less distracted, but I think they feel more part of the service when they're closer to the front. It's a lot easier to disengage when you're further back. But when you're right up there by the song leader and right up there by the preacher, it's a lot easier to stay engaged.
And kids don't mind. Adults, we're the ones that want to sit in the back. By the time a kid gets to high school, they're wanting to sit on the back row. But when they're little, when they come into my elementary music class, every one of them wants to sit on the front row. Nobody wants the back row in music class. They want to be in the front because they might get to play an instrument or they might get to do something else. And so kids don't mind.
Yeah. I like the word engage. That's the word. It's I think that can happen. They can just be totally, reading or coloring or something. And they don't even have any reason to try to follow the song or listen to the preaching. Well, let's move to pitfalls to avoid. When we sing without a musical or mechanical instrument, so we sing a cappella, that therefore we appoint a song leader to keep the beat and keep the song going and choose the songs that we're going to sing. Are there any suggestions for if we're leading a song, or if we're teaching our children to lead singing, or even maybe if your husband is a song leader, any tips for that to make that go more smoothly?
So pitfalls to avoid. You cut out for just a second, so I was going to start talking.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, so most of my tips that I kind of had down for that question, I've already presented under other things. But to help your, like you say, if you've got a son or a husband that's leading songs, honestly, I think it's encouragement as much as anything. I really do. Most of them have enough ability to get the job done. And that's really all they need. It's great to have someone that just walks up there and knocks it out of the ballpark. But all they need is enough to get the job done. And encouraging them to start there and then build is, I think that's number one important.
Yeah, and the other thing that we talk about in our household is when you get up there, of course, my son, super nervous, he gets up there and he messes up. We talk about don't stop. Don't stop. Just keep going. Just keep going. Beat that pattern up and down and get back to it. Don't stop the congregation. I've been in congregations where they completely stop the song, and that the song leader may have messed up, but everybody else was going, and so just as a song leader, if you can just think, keep going, get that downbeat, just keep going, and then usually when the verse starts back over or you get to the chorus, you and the congregation are back on the same page. But as a song leader, if you feel like you messed up, don't indulge the urge to just stop and start all over again.
That's a good point. Let's drop down to tempo, dragging. We've touched on this some. I don't know if any of you have any more to say about the dragging or not keeping the original tempo. But I don't know if you've heard this, but I've read this somewhere that, and I found it to be true, that when there's a congregation singing, they with each verse they go lower in the pitch and slower in the tempo. And if so, a song starts at a certain tempo and note, but by about the third verse at least, the song has slowed considerably and the starting note has dropped noticeably. So you can prove this at home by setting a metronome in another room and then singing several verses and then going back and hitting that note and checking the speed, and you'll find that you've slowed down and that the note is you're lower. So I guess the problem with that is there are occasionally, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I've had this happen where like I can't almost, I'm like singing alto. I start really high and then I can barely hit those notes because it's gone so much lower. And I think about the poor basses. They don't have a chance because it gets so low, and then it's so slow. It's like it's never going to end. Have any of you ever noticed that? Either of you?
Oh yes. But one thing, we talked about in previous episode about breath support, and honestly, that breath support and lack of breath support is the reason that pitch is lowering. You keep when you have poor breath support, it does cause you to go flat. And so as the congregation as a whole, with poor breath support, as you go, that pitch drops. And it does make it difficult in some songs. It gets too low. Rarely does it get too high, because most of the time we sing flat instead of sharp.
Okay.
But it's almost 100% due to breath control, and you get kind of the further you get into it, the more laid back and relaxed you are in it, as opposed to having good breath support in it. And so those things we talked about on the previous episode about learning how to improve your breath control, I mean, that helps congregational singing as well.
Well, and I found that once that happens, what do we do? And you talked about the basses, singing in the basement, and same thing with altos. It gets so low, and I try to keep from being loud, but often I'll go up an octave.
Okay.
I'll sing my alto line up an octave, and I just try to tone down the volume, because that's the only way that you can keep participating
right
in the song sometimes if it gets that low. And also it does kind of help to keep the pitches going and keep everybody else singing their parts and not dropping out. But it is, there's the danger of doing that, and then all of a sudden you're singing really loud and you're singing a solo. So I try to be careful with it. But that's really about the only thing as a member of the congregation that I can do. I can support my breath. I can do those things. But if we're already at that point,
yeah, my poor bass husband has sang melody before when it gets too low. So
and I think a lot of people do that. A lot of us will switch to the melody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if somebody thinks it doesn't matter, it does. It really does. You can just have a train wreck.
And then you're
either of you. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then you're thinking about that instead of the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
It all comes back to, it's all about our worship to God and keeping our focus on our praise to Him, and all of the mechanics of everything that we were talking about. All of the things that go wrong, that's what takes away from our worship. You start thinking about those things instead of the praise and the focus being solely on Him.
Do either of you have any more comments or observations that you want to hit before we wrap it up? Okay. Well, Julie and Stephanie, these are some great tips for helping us be more conscious of this collective activity that glorifies God. And thanks for joining us for this episode, and we encourage you to keep singing. Bye, everybody.